Now let's start working on these service orders, and let's start with registering service consumption. Where are we going to register the service consumption? We're going to do that on service lines. What are we going to register? Well, we will register the resource time which we needed for a repair. We will register the spare parts that we consumed, and we can register costs that are made for this repair. How are we going to do that? Well, we can do it in a manual way. We can use functions. We have seen the parameters to configure these functions, so we will use the insert starting fee, the insert travel fee, the split resource line, and finally we can also integrate with the timesheet entries that we have made with the create lines from timesheets. Let's have a look how this all works. So I created a new service order for Candoxy Canada. And when you look at the details, it's a service order for our dishwasher. So we are indicating that our dishwasher needs repair. By default, the repair status code is set to initial, but let's assume that the works are in progress. And so we say service is in process. And what you then see immediately is also the status of the service order has automatically been switched to in process. So now that we are in process, we can say like, well, let's register some consumption because technicians are working on it. So what you can do then is go to lines and then to order, and here you see service lines. And the first thing we can do is fill in here the repair consumption manually. So this is for service item number 57. I'm then going to say like, okay, let's register some resource time that we have consumed. For instance, I can say I'm going to take this resource, and this resource has worked already 4 hours on this order. No. So you see 4 hours on this order. That results in a specific amount. You also see that you get quantity to ship and quantity to invoice, which is filled in. We are not going to post yet, but if you post, of course, these hours will be posted and will be invoiced later on. You see also here in this case, however, there is a warranty applicable here. So that means that probably there is a 100% discount in place, and the result of the invoice, of course, will be that there is no payment required for this because it's still in warranty. So this is our first example. So here you can see that I have filled in the hours of a specific resource manually. Now, we also know that we have functions that we can use, and let's first have a look on how we could do this entry, not manually, but by means of timesheet entry, because it's possible that this resource has already filled in a timesheet, and that in your process the timesheets are leading, and that you get the resource usage by means of the timesheet. So let's have a look how that works. Now, the first thing you need to check if you want to work with timesheets is that your resource, so I'm here at the resource card page, that your resource has a timesheet owner user ID and a timesheet approver user ID. And of course, in this case, in this example, I've just added myself as a timesheet owner and a timesheet approver user ID, because in real life, of course, that would be different people, different users that you will have here. So that's the first thing that you will need to do. The second thing you need to do is you need to go to timesheets, and you need to create a timesheet for that resource. So let's have a look. Let's look up timesheets. Here you see timesheets, and you see that there are already timesheets created. If not, you can create your timesheets here for a specific period. Let's have a look here in this timesheet, which is the last one, and let's try to edit this timesheet. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add now, and you see I have already a number of examples here, but I'm going to make a timesheet entry for service. So you see here that I can select service, and then if I go here, then the next thing I can do is select the service order which I want to use. So let's look for the service order that we need. And I think it is a service order with the number 22 at the end. So here it is. And the next thing we can do is then select on which dates that we're going to enter some hours, right? So let's assume that we're going to say, okay, for this order, this resource, this technician has worked 4 hours on each working day. And this person has entered that now in a timesheet line. The next thing that this person needs to do is to click on submit, right? And we're going to submit here, you see here. And what is then the next step is that these lines, these timesheet lines, they need to be approved. So let's do the next step, and that is the approval of these timesheets. Now, to approve timesheet lines, you need to be the timesheet manager and you need to go to Manager Timesheets. When you click on that, you get a page with the Manager Timesheet lists, and here you see our last timesheet. And you see that we have here our service order 22 with consumed times, and it is submitted. So what we need to do now as a manager is approve these lines. So I'm going to click on approve, and what you see now is that these lines here are approved. Now remember also in the settings we have set that our timesheets are copied automatically to our service lines of the service order. So that is something that we need to verify now. Let's have a look if automatically these timesheet lines are transferred, created as service lines. We are back now in the list of all service orders. You see here service order 22. Let's open up this service order and let's check if we have automatically created service lines. So I'm going to order, then I'm going to service lines, and let's have a look now. So what we can see now is that we have more than one line of services consumptions. We created one manually, and we had five created with the timesheet. So that means that we have 6 lines in total, and that makes a fit. So what you can see here is that this was created automatically. Now, if you're setting in the general setup of service management, if you didn't check mark that you wanted to create automatic timesheets, then of course when you approve the timesheet, they will not be filled in here in these service lines, and then you need to use this function here, which is on the Actions tab, create lines from timesheets, and that function is going to do exactly the same as what happened in this example automatically, but you need to initiate this manually. Now let's go for another example of registering resource time on your service order. So we are now on a service order 3 for Deerfield Graphics Company. What is the difference with the previous example is that we have now a service order that includes more than one service item on the line. So you see 3 service items on this line. Now let's go and let's record some resource time here. So I go to service lines. Next thing I do is I pick the resource type here. I'm going to pick a specific resource, Mark Hansen for instance, and I'm going to add 12 hours, which we have worked already on this service order. Next thing I need to do is I go to Actions, and there you see a function which is called Split Resource Line. I'm going to click on it, and NAV is going to ask me, do you want to split the resource line and use it to create resource lines for the other service items with divided amounts? Or in other words, I'm working here now, and you can still see that here, on service item number 30, so which is the first service item of the lists of service items on the order. And for that service item, I've entered 12 working hours, and then I used the split resource line. And now the system is going to ask me, okay, so you want to split these 12 hours over the 3 service items, 30, 31, and 32. And what are we going to get then? You get 4 hours of resource time for each of these service items. So if if I click yes, what you see now is 4 resource hours for service item number 30. And you see here that we are filtering this page now per selected service item line. You can also change that, and you can say like, oh, I want to see all service items. And you see here now service item 30, 31, 32. And what you see is that for each service item on the service order, the 12 hours were divided and divided equally. So you get 4, 4, 4. Now let's check how to register the consumption of spare parts. So we are now on our service order again. We are on lines, order, and then click on service lines. So you end up in the service lines. You can register the consumption here, you know that by now. But instead of a resource line, we're going to enter manually an item line. So I need to pick a specific item. It's going to be a rim here. I'm going to remove the warehouse or the location code. Why? Because I need to have inventory. So quantity is filled in, unit of measure is filled in. You can see that a line discount is here applicable because of warranty. Quantity to ship is filled in, quantity to invoice is filled in. Basically, that is what you need to do if you're going to add a spare part consumption if you want to register that for your service order. We will now have a look on how to enter costs that are made for the service. So up until now we registered resource time, we registered spare part components. Let's register now some costs. I'm back in my service order for Deerfield Graphics. Remember the service order where you had more than one service item on the lines. How are we going to do that? Well, same way, lines, order, and we go to service lines. And what we can do from here is insert a starting fee. So if I click on it, you see something happened, but we don't see the result immediately. Well, that's because this filter is still in place. If you switch the filter to all, then you will see that now a cost, a service cost, remember, which service cost? The starting cost, this one here, is automatically filled in because we use the insert starting fee. So you see the starting fee with a specific price, a unit price, which is all configured in the settings. We have seen that before. And also in our general settings, this is selected as a starting fee. And that is the result of using that function insert starting fee. Now, what will happen if we use the function insert travel fee? Well, then a service cost will be entered. Which one? Well, that depends on this customer. So you have to look at the service zone of this customer, and you can find that under the details fast tab here in the service order. And you see that the service zone code is W from West. So if we go now back to the service lines, and if you then going to use that function insert travel fee, which I did now, I have to switch the filter again, and now you will see that we have two costs here entered. And the first one is of course a starting fee, and now we also have the travel fee West, which is inserted automatically because of the fact that this customer is located in a service zone West. So you can use two functions for entering costs, insert starting fee and insert travel fee. You can, of course, also always enter fees yourself, right, or costs. You can do that yourself manually just by picking and selecting a specific cost in here, which is configured. So that's a possibility as well. Another possibility is that you don't use the service costs, but that you go directly to a GL account level, and you can fill in here as well costs directly with a GL account.